Welcome to the presentation on staff development for EDUC 590. Most of the information for this presentation was gathered from Anthony Muhammad's book entitled Transforming School Culture: How to Overcome Staff Division. His book was published by Solution Tree Press in 2009. This is part 1 of 2 of the presentation, which focuses on professional development, school culture, and the types of educators within a school community. When designing professional development, you want to minimize negative responses, therefore involving teachers in the process of making change, which is very helpful. This can be done by allowing them to collaboratively design the professional development or allowing teachers to have ownership in the change. This leads to smoother implementation of the initiative that you want to happen. I will share my story at the end of both of these presentations because our story is one of great success. Secondly, you want to get the attention of your staff. Start off your long-term change with some kind of event, possibly an institute or mini conference. Bring in specialists, consultants, utilize university specialists if needed. And as you continue through the process, have breakout sessions with local experts, but the initial experience should be attention-getting so that you can send the message that this should be taken seriously and is worthy of the staff's time. Provide multiple opportunities for your staff in regard to the initiative. We know that multiple exposures and choice is a big factor in our students' learning and mastery of concepts. This is the same for adults. Try providing choices that will lead to the same end, possibly a book study group, teachers participated in action research, maybe through classroom visits and coaching, sharing sessions, strategy sessions, staff meetings which focus around the end goal are all different ways to provide opportunities for your staff. Early on, you're going to find the teachers that have gotten on board with your initiative and add those to the process as models and experts. Create them as leaders within your school. We know school culture is important when it comes to any kind of change. This has been evident from the beginning with our conversations about leaders and their qualities. Cromwell states that school culture is a set of norms, values, and beliefs, rituals and ceremonies, symbols and stories that make up the persona of the school. Schools need to build a positive school culture and have buy-in to the changes that are made. Here you see the characteristics of positive school culture versus toxic or negative school culture. Many of the positive school cultures are those characteristics that you would assume it would encompass. Positive cultures have educators believing all students can succeed, similar to having a growth mindset. This culture receives support through the policies, procedures, and practices which enhance the belief. Toxic school cultures reflect the ideas of the fixed mindset, that students can only go so far based on what they have within them, that the student is the ultimate factor of success. The practices and policies and procedures in a toxic school culture reflect that belief that only certain students will find the ultimate success. Look at these 12 characteristics of powerful and positive school cultures. Think about which characteristics match what you see in your school situation. What are some traits that your school can improve upon, and which characteristics are completely missing in your situation? Hopefully you found more of those characteristics that align with what you have going on in your school situation than not. Anthony Muhammad conducted a study of 34 schools across the United States in different geographical and socioeconomic situations. His studies were both informal and formal, but he found some consistencies among staff, which he broke down into these 4 belief systems. Believers are educators that held that all students are capable, and it is the educator who has an impact on student success. These educators' core beliefs align with those of healthy, positive school cultures and seem to constantly find conflict with those educators who fall in the fundamentalist category. The tweeners are the newbies, not necessarily rookies, but those who are new to the district school or situation. These educators are just learning what the culture is like, where they fall within the belief system. They tend to find themselves in a tug of war between the believers and the fundamentalists. Sometimes it takes a tweener a few years to find out where they fall in their new situation. Survivors are just what they sound like, and luckily are typically a small number within a school situation. These are educators that are burned out or just waiting to retire. They are those who are overwhelmed by the pressures of education and are biding their time until they move on or just move out. Fundamentalists are typically not fans of change and will buck the system whenever they have a chance. These are your naysayers when it comes to school reform, since their belief is, why change it if it isn't broken? And they battle against the believers constantly. Believers want their students to be well-rounded and successful emotionally, academically, and socially. School leaders want these people to be on the side of change that needs to happen. Believers are willing to put forth more effort into initiatives which provide extra benefits for students. They have personal commitments to education as well as being extremely dedicated, going above and beyond the expectations. They have personal connections to the school and community, which builds a stronger bond between students and themselves, since the students see them outside of the school situation and create a sense of familiarity which sets students more at ease within the classroom. Believers will individualize their responses to students instead of being strict with student interactions. They know their students well and differentiate their interactions based on that knowledge. These educators also find ways to support their students, moving students away from distractions, giving phone calls home to parents, positive incentives, and provide extra support. Students know that failure is not an option in that classroom, and it is non-negotiable. When opposing viewpoints try to destroy the positive culture, believers reply back with research and ethics to support their views of every child succeeding. These educators also understand how students learn and provide multiple opportunities and methodology when implementing lessons and units. The tweeners are those new to the school culture. They are unsure where they belong and are waiting to find out what the school is all about. These educators are those who eventually fall into one of the other three categories. One group of tweeners are those who are straight out of college or those for whom teaching is their second career. These tweeners will find their niche within 2 to 4 years of being initiated into the school culture. Another type of tweener are those educators who have switched districts, schools, or positions. These tweeners find their place within the school system in the first or second year. Tweeners typically don't have a personal connection to the school and community because of their newness. However, leaders can help guide these educators by pairing them up with believers that share similar personal interests. Think of it like a new teammate to the football team. This teammate is introduced to the norms, beliefs, and goals of the team by the team leaders and typically follow suit. Tweeners are ready and willing to dive in and become part of the school community. Leaders need to tap into this enthusiasm and guide these tweeners towards keeping the positive attitude and contributing to the positive school culture. These teachers that are new to a school situation find themselves in a honeymoon period where they don't want to upset any of their new colleagues. This period is when administration needs to link the tweener with a high-quality educator who can mentor them. The school leader is the one that they most want to impress, so therefore it should be used to the leader's advantage and sway the tweener to the side of the believers in change that needs to happen. Tweeners are important to school situations for a couple reasons. First, leaders want the educators to become part of a long-term change and reform and to be a consistent component to the school culture. Secondly, leaders want these educators to contribute to the beliefs of the believers and continue to build the positive school culture that is in place. The survivors are another small group, usually about 2% of the population within a school system. They have completely given up on teaching and just want to make it to the end of the school year, but they cannot be forgotten or else it will have a devastating impact on student achievement. The expectations of education have become overwhelming for these educators, which make them survivors, and then end up triggering the psychological flight response in the flight or fight psychological response. These educators need the support of the school leaders and colleagues in coping with the demands so that the students won't suffer. Classroom management is one of the first aspects to deteriorate within the survivor's control. The survivor starts to bargain with students in order to obtain their compliance, and students take advantage of those bargaining opportunities. The saying, give them an inch and they take a mile, is definitely in effect with a survivor. This is a tricky system to use, and once the balance is tipped, more loss of control can happen. Since the survivor no longer has much investment in education, they tend to lose out in the area of professional practice and connections because they are withdrawn. They tend to show more videos in class, have students do more busy work and worksheets, and the reward of free time is often provided. When school leaders see this downward spiral of the survivors, a response or intervention is needed, and quickly. This can be done in several different ways to support the educator: by reassigning the teacher to a less challenging assignment, transferring the teacher to another school in hopes that the new environment is a better match, counseling the teacher to find the right direction, whether it is to find their passion again, retire, or leave education completely. There can also be stricter ways to deal with survivors, which result in termination, removal, or to take some medical leave. If we are honest with ourselves, we know that education is stressful, as there are many things that are out of our control and pressure coming from so many different directions. It shouldn't be a surprise that teachers tend to fall into the category of survivors. However, school leaders can reduce the effect they have on student achievement. Leaders need to find the best way in their situation to help that survivor and the students he or she serves. Fundamentalists are one of the bigger types of educators in schools. These educators believe in the traditional model of schooling. They believe that the system that educated them was good enough, so why change it? Fundamentalists are adamantly against change. It is the enemy and tend to be the loudest in opposition of any change happening. However, if schools are going to improve student learning, they must implement strategies that are different from those used in the past and evolve. Fundamentalists have a blatant and overt opposition to change. Usually, these teachers were very good in school themselves and come to the career because of that success. Our next bullet point refers to the contract, which in this case is a universal set of expectations that ties to specific roles and responsibilities within a school system. Fundamentalists have a desire to keep the traditional way of learning, the old contract, where a teacher had complete autonomy, complete control over the curriculum, and was seen as an expert. The new contract has different values and asks for transparency of school and teacher performance. There's more standardized curriculum, with outsiders saying what teachers should teach, and fundamentalists believe this will stunt their creativity and is detrimental to students. Evaluation systems are different, and community members, as well as parents, have more involvement in what happens in schools under the new contract ideas. Fundamentalists believe that the new contract is creating an anti-teacher movement. Fundamentalists hold true to the idea of the fixed mindset. Some students are destined to be doctors and others to be garbage men. Most of their grades are distributed on the typical bell-shaped curve, with little receiving A's or F's and most earning B's, C's, and D's. They ultimately believe students should sink or swim based on their merits. Many fundamentalists have different skill levels. These are not always ineffective teachers, but certain values that they hold make it difficult for them to be part of a positive school culture. The rejection of change presents a danger to school culture. Fundamentalists are typically very active in the school community. The reasons for the resistance to change stem from an emotional place. It is infringing on their personal time, interrupting their daily routines, or they don't want to give up their power. School leaders need to steer this argument away from the emotional part and instead focus on some different strategies. Clearly state the reason for the change. Connect the change to the purpose of the school and improvement goals with the use of data. Tie it to research from several different sources. Fundamentalists work best within an informal culture, those places where the communities, committees, and task forces are not present. School leaders need to be aware of these informal cultural situations, the discussions in the lounges and the parking lots at social events. This can be done through addressing concerns by providing opportunities for educators to express their viewpoints in meetings, by encouraging discussions about the system's overarching goals and mission statements, making it evident that there need not be division, that we all must work together to do what's best. Lastly, we have our 3 Ds: defamation, disruption, and distraction. Fundamentalists often work by intimidation. If someone is working against what they believe is right, they'll create personal assaults against change agents. If the change agent cannot be stopped, fundamentalists will focus on the change initiative itself. They focus on the details of the change and make it seem so overwhelming that staff will oppose it. They look at past initiatives that broke down or were ineffective, disrupting the development of change with possible scenarios that deem the change impossible. Distraction is a good technique as well to stall change, and fundamental use it as well.